Welcome to the fastest daf in town, today Masechtas Bava Kama Daf Lamed Beis. We're going to begin at the Mishnah and the Lamed Aleph Lamed Beis. Says the Masnisa, Zeba b'chavisoi v'zeba b'korasoi. So you have one person and he has a beam, the other person has a barrel. And Rashi helps us a little bit. Upagazebazeh. They basically bump into each other. So nishbur kadu shilzeh b'karaso shilzeh potter shilzeh rishus l'halach v'zeh rishus l'halach. So even though they bumped into each other, so the truth is both of them had permission to be able to walk, and therefore the fact that they banged into each other is not going to be responsible. Let's say the person with the beam is in front, and the person with the barrel is behind him. So nishbar chavis b'kara potter bal hakayra. So the owner of the beam is going to be potter if he causes the barrel to break. So basically, even though the bal hakayra is in front, so the reality is that he's going to be potter. Says Rashi shezem halach kedarko v'hu mihir lechas. Because one guy was just walking regularly holding his beam, and the other guy was running quickly with his barrel, and he smashed his barrel. It's not the Bal Kara's fault. As we continue on Lamed Beis Amud Aleph, Im Amad Bal Kara Chayev. But let's say the person who was walking with the beam, he just stopped. So at that point, since he stopped, that's Meshuna. That's not normal because the person behind him shouldn't have anticipated it. And therefore, the Bal Kara is Chayev, which again is interesting because when it comes to a car accident, apparently that's not the same thing. The law is that the person who hits the guy in the front, the back bumper, if you will, that back car is always Chayev. Of course, this is not the same thing as an automobile, but nonetheless, it's an interesting thing to think about. V'im Amr l'Bal Chavis Amid Potter. We had all this before. If the Bal Kara if he said to the Bal Chavis, stop, he's potter. In other words, at least he warned him. And the fact that he didn't heed to his warning, so then now it's not on the Bal Kara anymore. It's not the person who has the beam that's responsible. Bal Chavis Rishain. Let's say the other way around. Let's say the person carrying the barrel was first. Bal Kara Acharon Nishbar Chavis Bakara Chayiv. Because what happens? It's like the opposite. The person carrying the chavius was walking in a normal way. The person with the beam was going too quick and smashed into the barrel, so therefore the owner of the beam is chayiv. V'im omad bal chavius potter. However, everything's the reverse. If the person carrying the barrel who's in the front stopped, so then, and the Bal Kara didn't realize, he just kept walking, he smashed into the barrel, he's not at fault. But if the person with the barrel said stop, but he didn't, then you're chayiv. So you can really use two other things, like one's holding a lantern, the other one's holding flax. There's one thing does damage, and the other thing is a recipient of the damage. Okay, says the Gemara. Bamini Rabba bar Nasan Rav Huna. So Rabba bar Nasan asks a question from Rav Huna. Hamazik es ishto b'tashmi shemita mahu. Now this is certainly a challenging question. He had tashmish with his wife, and he physically injured her in that process. Kivan deberishus ka'avid pater. Since this is part of the way of a man and a woman, and therefore he was just acting in a normal fashion, so he shouldn't be chayiv. Perhaps he should have warned her of some way. We learn this in our Mishnah. If you have two people and they collide into each other, so then no one is responsible. So over here, it's really the same thing. So Amarabba Kabachaimer. Mayar, when it comes to a forest, each person can enter into the forest. Nasa Kimisha Nichnas or Shus Chavero V'chayiv, However, when it comes to the dinim of killing someone, when it comes to the dinim of golus, of being exiled to the city of refuge, Ari Mikvat, it's ki'ilu, like you entered into the Rishus Chaveroi. So zeh shel Rishus Chavero nichnas lo kol shekain. In this situation, this man did enter in the Rishus Chaveroi, namely his wife's body, by having tashrish with her. So then he should certainly be chayiv. Ela hakatani shel zer Rishus Halach v'zer Rishus Halach hasam tirvaya b'hadadininhu. Over there, they were coming together. Says Rashi, Shneim Shavin b'shvirasan. They're both equal in breaking. Shav bal chavias siei b'shivirasa. Because also, because of the collision, the bal chavias is also partially the reason why the barrel broke. If the beam was moving and the barrel was not moving, it may not have broken the barrel. But through the head-on collision of both people moving in the same direction, that's what caused it to break. Hacha iu ka'avin ma'isa v'ihu lo. He did the action, but not her. It says that they both are engaged in the act of bia. That just means that they're both derive hana from the act of bia. Ihu masahu de ka'avin, but he's the one that actually did the maisa. So certainly the question is, if this is your wife, like, what do you mean you're paying your wife? Like, it's hard to really understand exactly what's being asked over here. But again, apparently we cannot necessarily compare the two cases, and therefore perhaps you taka would be chayav. Okay. All right. Weiter. Hayabal karishin b'chul. So Amr Shlaka shtei parais b'rishus harabim. Let's say you have two cows, and we had this Gemara also before. Achas in the Rishus harabim. Achas ravutz v'achas malachas. One is crouched down, and the other one is moving. Now, the one who is mahalachas, that is the normal way. But the mahalachas b'ravutza potter. If the mahalachas kicks the one who's crouched down, you're potter. Because the ravutza, as we said before, is doing something in which is meshuna. And therefore, kicking, which is also unusual, therefore you're going to be potter. Ravutza mahalachas chayevas. However, the other way around, you're going to be chayiv, because if you damage one of those mahalachas, that's the normal pattern of how it behaves, and therefore by walking, and therefore you're going to be chayiv. Lema masayle hayabal kar rishon bal chavis achadoin. Our Mishnah said, if the person in front is carrying a beam, and the one behind him has the barrel, nishbar chavis bakara potter. So if the barrel broke, he's potter. Now v'im amad bal kara chayiv. And that's because he was going too fast, the Baal Chavius. But if the Baal Kara just stopped, and then the Baal Chavius continued walking, then he would be Chayiv. Now, the Hahacha, over here, when he stopped, which is not normal, you shouldn't be stopping. So since you stopped, that's not normal, and therefore when he smashes into you, he says you're Chayiv. So that's the Kravutza b'mahalachas dami v'katani Chayiv. So this is comparable to a case of Ravutza b'mahalachas, says Rashi. The Baal Kaira she'amad, the person who stopped with a beam, have a mishuna. That's not normal. Shein derech lafush b'rishus harabim. It's not normal to stop in the rishus harabim, and we see that's why he's chayiv. So over here, they're Kravutza b'mahalachas dami. That's comparable to the case of where the crouched one, which is not normal, hits the one that's walking, and v'katani chayiv l'chayra the ravutza b'mahalachas. We said that you're chayiv ravutza b'mahalachas because it kicked the thing. The one was normal. Okay, V'tizbra. So we're basically that's a raya. So it's a Messiah. It's a raya to that. So v'tizbra is that like makes sense. Ha sayaboy lo mistaya the lo mistaya. You want to try this as a proof? Now it's not a proof. Miksha nami kasha. It's actually a question. Time of the ba'anta. It's only because it kicked. Kohuskum meila potter. If it would have just damaged it in a normal manner, it'd be potter. But nonetheless, when it came to the case of the two animals, that's the case of the two animals. But our Mishnah would imply you be chayiv. Because our Mishnah is talking about he just stopped. Because Mishuna, but it's memela. It's and nonetheless he's chayiv. So masnisin the paskel orcha. So our Mishnah the paskel orcha kishilda says Rashi. Kairel orcha. So a person who's walking with his beam in the front. Kishilda shahayu rasheha. He's like this animal, like a weasel. Shahayu rasheha l'roichav. Haderach, that his head is the width of the road. Hilka chafil memela chayiv shein derech l'bal chavis lintais. Because basically the bal chavis has nowhere to turn. Hacha kagain derava b'chad gisa iboyle l'sugi b'idach gisa. When it came to the animal, you could have avoided him. The point is, when it came to the case of the beam and the barrel, there's no way to avoid it. And therefore, that's the reason why that's the din. However, when it comes to the animal, it could have moved to another direction. Now, the safe is approved. If the one with the barrel is in front, if the barrel gets broken, you're chayiv. V'im amad bal chavis, but if the guy with the barrel stopped, in that situation, you're pater for breaking it because he shouldn't have stopped in the middle of the road. So masnisin dechi urche kam maske. Our Mishnah, the owner's beam is he's just walking. He didn't actively do any damage. Hacha armolinehid islach reshusa skuye. Olalavutibi leislach reshusa. Okay, you have permission to walk over here, but you don't have permission to kick. So it's not exactly the same case because the beam is not really actively doing destruction. It just happens to be this inanimate object did damage. Mashenkin, when it comes to this animal, it be a dime did damage. Next Mishnah. Says the Masnisen. So you have two people in the street. One's running and one's walking. Now, running in the middle of the street, this was before marathons were invented, was not normal. Let's say both of them are running. So they're both doing equally wrong things, or unusual things, I should say. Now, the sefer makes sense because they were both, they both could have been, might as well have been walking. Instead, they were both running, and they banged into each other. So Masnisa no Kisi ben Yehuda. Our Mishnah Chayr is not like this Shitas Yachid. The sign Yisi ben Yehuda Omer Ratz Chayiv. The one who is running is Chayiv Emnei Shehu Meshuna because he's doing something unusual. But our Mishnah says he's Potter. No Umayda Isi, and he agrees. Be'arav Shabbos ben Shmashas Shehu Potter Emnei Sheratz Rishos. If you're running on Erev Shabbos because you're trying to beat the clock, because Shkia is coming. So yes, that's okay. Then you could take a run, and if you did damage, then you're okay. Rav Yochanan halacha Kisi ben Yehuda. So me and Rav Yochanan hachi, the Rav Yochanan really said halacha like him. The Rav Yochanan stam Mishnah. So how could he hold like Kisi ben Yehuda? But Rav Yochanan always holds like a plain Mishnah, like here. Tanan nechar ratzav mahalech. No shayish name ratzim. Peturin. Our Mishnah says you're potter. So how could Rav Yochanan? How do I understand Rav Yochanan? He always holds like a Stam Mishnah, and yet at the same time, he's passing like Yisib ben Yehuda, which is not like our Stam Mishnah. So Masnisin, Be'er Shabbos Ben Ishmoshes, our Mishnah Tak is talking about Ben Ishmoshes, Erev Shabbos Ben Ishmoshes. The only reason why you're put there is Tak because of Yisib ben Yehuda, his Shita because it's Rishus only then. Otherwise, Tak running is Mishun, you'd be Chayiv. How do we know that we should institute and establish that our mission is talking about this specific case? Midiktani. It says, they're both running. Hastu lamali. Why do you need that case? Mashma like this. You can make the following diak. Hashtu now. If one of them is running, the other one's walking, even though one is doing the right thing, one's doing the normal thing, one's doing the non-normal thing, you're potter, then shteim rotzim and boy, obviously going to be potter, they're both running. This is how you read the Mishnah. Potter. If one is walking and one is running, then you're potter. B'medimer, that's only be'erev Shabbos ben hashmashos, because the one who's running is also normal. So they're both normal. Walking or running on erev Shabbos ben hashmashos is normal. If it was just a regular weekday, then you're going to be chayav. However, if both of them are running, then it cancels each other out, and therefore you're both potter. Okay. Okay, let's look at question 13. So Hamahalach potter. Baharotz machloikes tanoim shteim rotzim paturin. Okay. Fine. Omar Mar. Umaydi isi be'erev Shabbos ben hashmashos shu potter. So even Isi ben Yehuda, who says that if you're running, you're chayiv, that's because it's meshuna, that's only during the week. However, on Shabbos, rather on Erev Shabbos, you're not supposed to run on Shabbos. On Erev Shabbos, you'd be potter and mishuratz mershus. Erev Shabbos, my mershus ika. What does that mean, mershus? What does that language mean? Kid Rab Chanina. Dear Rab Chanina, as we continue on with Beis. What does he say? He says, "Boy, v'neitze likras kala malchasa." Go out and greet the Shabbos queen. The Amr Lasam says, "Likras Shabbos kala malchasa." Rabbi Yanai misate fekoi v'Amr boy kal. Rabbi Yanai used to wrap himself in a talus, and he used to say boy kal, which of course we say at the end of L'chad Doidi. Rashi says, "Ka'adam hamakabel pnei melech." Just like you're being makabel pnei melech, you're going to be makabel pnei melech. You're going to crawl, you're going to run to the king. Okay. Next Mishnah. Says the Masnisin. Let's say you have a person, Rashi says, eitzim. You're chopping wood. Person's chopping a whole bunch of wood in the middle of the street. The hizik b'rishus yachid. Now those pieces shot out and landed on shalachem, someone else's private property, and damaged in that property. Or you're chopping wood b'rishus yachid in Rashi says your own shalos, your own property. The hizik b'rishus around you, and it shoots out and hits someone in the street. Or b'rishus yachid, the hizik b'rishus yachid, his property into someone else's property. B'rishus yachid chayiv. So in all these cases, you're going to be chayiv. Says the Gemara. Utzricha. We need all these cases. Why? Ditana. You're chopping wood in a private domain and it shoots out into the street. Why are you chayiv? Because there's a bunch of people over there. So you should have been careful. They're shooting all these sharp wood chips all over the place. So you should have been careful. So Rashi says, but if you shoots out to Rishus Yachid, it's a private property, no one's around, no big deal. You would think you'd be potter. Because you started in a place where you had no permission to be doing it. You had no business chopping wood over there in the middle of the public area. You're chopping wood in your own property. You have every right to be able to do it. So maybe you'd be potter even if it shoots out to the Rishus Rabim damages. The problem is if it shoots into the street, that's Shchichi Rabim. The other one is you're chopping wood in a public area without permission. It's not your property. People are Shchichi Rabim. There's not a lot of people there. And you're doing it the proper way, because you're allowed to chop wood in your own house, Emalot tzricha. Tanaban. Hanichnas lachanuso shel nagar. Person enters into a store of a carpenter, shelo b'rshus, and you entered into this person's shop without permission. V'hitza bakat, and you were chopping wood. V'tavcha al panav, and it basically hits the guy. Umeis, and it kills them. Potter. So in that situation, if this person is talking about the carpenter's chopping wood, you had no business walking into their private area. It was very dangerous because, you're not wearing a hard hat. You're not, the guy didn't know you were even coming. So he's busy doing his work and things shoot out and kills you. So that the carpenter's potter. However, if you were given permission to enter, he should have been a lot more careful because he knew you were there. And the fact is that if he kills a person there, then the carpenter will be chayav. Now, my chayav, what does that mean exactly? It means that you have to pay for the 4 things, which is coming to exclude l'chara boishes. Right, that's what Rashi says. So you're only chayav for the dal devar, but pater b'golus. This guy's not going to go to golus because the pasuk says that it's not really a form of a peshia or negligence, so therefore you'll be pater from golus. Lefish ein daim l'yar, as the Gemara says, because it's not like a forest. Yar is a reshuso nichnas. When it comes to a forest, so anyone can enter into a forest. It's just like public. It's like a national park. You can go into a forest. This person can go in as well. So however, when it came to the carpenter, it's only with the reshus of chaveroi. You can only go in with the person's permission. Okay, and therefore, for that reason, it's not like a forest. The typical case of the pasuk is you're chopping wood and the blade falls off. So according to one shot, pashim shot, the blade falls off and kills someone. Then you're chayav galus. That's because in that case of a forest, anyone could go in, but over here you have to get permission. So it's not the same thing, and that's why you're not chayav galus. Okay, so this is the first lashon. The first lashon. This is what it says. You're chayav and dal devarim, but you're pater from galus. Okay, all right. Zel reshuso chaveru nichnas amar Rava kavachaymer. We have a kavachaymer. Listen to this. So my yard, as far as that, l'daito nichnas or zel l'daito nichnas. Each one went on their own. It was their own. They went on their own opinion to walk into that forest. Even though that's the case, it's ki'ilu like you went into your friend into nichnas l'das chaveroi. It's like you entered with your friend's consent, right? He was given reshus almost to enter. So zesh l'das chaveroi nichnas l'koshikain. So let me read it again. In that case, you really didn't get permission, but nonetheless, it's like like you were given permission. You don't need permission, and you're chayiv. So zeshel das chaver nechnas ol kol shekain. Here by the store, he was given reshus to enter into the store, so for sure he should be chayiv galus. El omerava my pater megalus to sagli begalus. It's not that he's a karbal oinis, but he's karbal mazid. So the only time you go to galus is if you're a shaygig. But if you're instead you're more b'mezid, you don't go to galus, or if you're more b'oinis, you don't go to galus. So over here we're saying that's maskana. You're right, through that kavachaymer, you're talking more of a mezid because you did tell the guy to come in. So the reason why is because you're karvel mezid. Mezid Rava, ha'isiv lo ritzu achas umeis harizeh goyla al yadai. Let's say when it comes to the din of giving someone malchus, Rashi says Yisrael ma shamduhu beistin shiachol kabel meis goylal yadoi. So the person's supposed to get 39 sets of lashes for malchus, but it's sets of of 3. The Beis Din evaluates the person. How much can this person handle and not die? So if, let's say, it's a very weak person, they'll say he can only handle 15, let's say. And if the person who's doing the hitting ends up hitting him 20 times and kills him, then this person is going to go to Golus. He shouldn't have done it because he went above and beyond what was the evaluation of this person. Now, v'hacha d'sheg karba mezidu, tiboil asuki daita, d'maisi inshim b'chad retzua. He should have figured out that since the Beis Din evaluated he can only withstand 15, he may die more than that, and he killed him. So, but Katani Harizeg Goyal, even though he's really karba mezid, in that case, we say he still goes to Golos. So why don't we say the same thing when it comes to the store owner? This carpenter should also go to Golos. So Rav Shimi Menarda Titoy Biminyana. It's not that he was like whacking the guy uncontrollably. He just made a mistake in the count. And therefore that's why it's a shogeg. But Tak, if he would just be hitting him, so no. In that case it would be karba mezid, it would be potter. Tafachle Rava Besandale. So interestingly enough, Rava hit Rav Shimi with his shoe. Rashi says the Rav Shimi he kahu al sandaloi lashon acher, but besandal Rav Shimi he kicked his shoe. Armalei atu what? Who money? You're saying he made a mistake in the count? He's not the one that does the counting, right? There's not just one person doing all this in Malchus. So Sanya, Gadol Shabadayanim, the greatest of all the judges that are there, Kaira. He's the one who will read the pasuk of V'hifla Hashem es Makoischas. Rashi quotes Vasheni Moina. The second one counts. Vashlishi Omer Hakehu. And the third person says hit. So there's already someone else that's doing this process. So you can't tell me he made a mistake in the count. It means that the judges themselves made the mistake. So let's say a person throws a rock into the street, the harag, and he kills someone doing that, harizeh goyla. In that case, you do go to Golos. So in this case, l'chayra, this person is karba mezid, and nonetheless he still goes. By the way, it is interesting, an interesting ha'ara, that Rabbi hit him with his shoe when he's explaining the dinim of Malchus about hitting. Right? There's obviously a reason. L'chayra must be the reason why he did that. Amar Shmuel bar Yitzchak b'seiser es kaislai. No, it's in the event where he just throws a huge rock into a huge street with a bunch of people, that's karba mezid. It would not go to goals because that's not shaygig. But if you're dismantling your wall, that's shaygig. You should have warned people. B'sais b'layla did at night. B'layla nami boiling nuye. You should have told people still at night. B'sais es kaisel b'yoyim l'ashba, that you were dismantling it into a garbage heap. And if it was a garbage heap, so there's like no one around. So hayashba echidam. What does that mean? If there's a lot of people by this ashba, you're still amazed at who. If there's no one around, it's a ninus. How do you find this middle ground that you'd be going to ghost because there's a shaygig? So my papa tzricha ella ba'ashba hasuli panais. We're talking about a garbage heap in which people go to relieve themselves. As b'nei adam nifnin ba l'nikvehen. So Belial, and they usually do it Belial at night. They don't go during the day. So you did it during the day, and you killed someone, but there shouldn't have been anyone there. You weren't expecting anyone there, because that's not the normal routine. And therefore, you're not a karba mezid, but still, you were negligent on some level, so you're a b'shayg, that's why you go to goals. The ikadam mikre, v'yasiv, there are people that are there. So mezid l'havi. People typically don't go there relieve themselves. There are once in a while people that go in there, and therefore you should have been a little bit more careful here. It's a shaygig. So that was the first lashon, that you're potter from, you're chayv in the dal devarim, but you're potter from golos. So Rava learns it based on the reisha. Hanichnas lachanusa shel nagar. Person enters into the carpenter's store. Shol b'rshus without permission. The nitzalo bakas v'tavchalo al panav umeis potter. And then the carpenter kills this guy because he went in without permission. He's potter. So on this, the carpenter. On this, we say is chayv for things who potter from golos. That's what we're talking about. That is the person who's potter from golos. So mandi masnul seifa that you're potter from golos there, which is b'shegeg, koshkin a reisha, and certainly in the reisha. Umandi masnul reisha v'lo seifa kivan the rishus chayv golos. Since he went in with permission, he's chayv golos. Okay. So, question 14, I don't think all the answers are here. It says, Hanichnas lachanusa shel nagar shelo b'rshus. This is without permission. And then he chops wood and kills the guy. Im chayiv hanagar b'hei devarim. So it says, Nezek chayiv. Sari boyu boy v'sheves machlokes boshes potter. So, in that case, boishes, you're definitely potter. Nezek or chayav, the question is by tsari point boishes. What I read here, answer is only the second lashon, not the first. Okay. Person goes into the store of a blacksmith. The sparks of the blacksmith shoot out. The tavchaloyal panav, it hits the guy's face. Umeis, and it kills him. Potter. Even though he entered with permission. So this is a question on the second lashon that says that you're chayv golus. Here you see your potter. So why is it that you are potter? Because b'shuli denavchi. It wasn't just some stam guy that walked in. It was the carpenter's apprentice. So he goes there. So in second, shuli denavchi l'miktalkoi. So he killed the guy, right? He had no business going to. He should have recognized it. Those kisharabo misarhe boy, what says the master carpenter warned him to leave, but he didn't leave. So therefore, he's not responsible. He's not considered like b'mezid. Okay. So I understand. So because the master thought that he told him to warn him to go, he can kill him? No, Kasavar Yotza. He actually thought that he actually left. He thought his apprentice walked out of the store. So Yahachi Achanami. So why don't we say the same thing as when it comes to any person that he gave these instructions to? Why are we making a distinction between a carpenter's apprentice? As we continue, Lam Gimel Aleph, because Achar Leisle Imasad Rabbi. Anyone else does not have the fear of his master. Hi Isla Imasad Rabbi. This man does have it. Says Rashi, the nafach aleva havi leila suke daite shemo yotza. When it comes to anyone else, you should think he has no connection to me. So I may tell him to leave, but he may not listen to me. So therefore, you have to be more careful because you would have anticipated that person would be there. Masha'in Keen, when it comes to the carpenter's apprentice, he has a Masad Rabbe, so you would think there'd be a greater chance that he actually would have listened to you. Okay. There's a Mishnah coming up, but we're going to stop there. Okay. Let's see a couple questions. TA 20. Hanichnas chanusa shel nagar v'hitza ba'avach v'tavcha al panav umeis. So he killed him. Ha'im chayiv golus umatam liftor. So is he chayiv? Is he potter? What's the reason why he would say he'd be potter? Okay, so he says like this. Shelo b'rishus. If he came in without permission, l'koliyam potter, then you're definitely potter because you're karvel oinus. B'rishus. If he came into your store, have he plugged the trey lishni, then that's the machlokus between the two lashonos. But tam lifter, why would you be potter? Mishum de'enu doim liyar, because it's not comparable to a forest. And it also says masar b'shulio kaliyam potter. If you told the apprentice to leave, then you're definitely potter because you would not have anticipated that he actually would not have listened to you. So therefore, because he fears you, you would have thought that he left. So therefore, l'kuliyam, when it comes to the apprentice, that person, you would definitely say you are going to be potter. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there. So again, if it was without rishos, if you came in with rishos, then you're potter. If you came in with permission, that's where it will be a machlokas. TB21. Hanichnas hachanusa shonaga shel bershos, v'nitza Allah bekat v'huzik. Same question as 14. These 5 things. So hopefully I got this answer right. Nezek chayev, boishes potter l'kol yalma, sar ripoy boishes yesh machlokas. Excellent. That's the right answer. Adkan.